Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I am so excited for this episode of the Culture Matters podcast. My anxiety has turned into excitement as a consequence of brushing up against what my potential, the discomfort in that, oh, what could go wrong? Why, how am I going to look? What am I going to say? How is it going to make any sense? And of course, that's where the rationalization comes in. Oh, I don't need to do it. I'm running out of time. I have 18 minutes before my next meeting. That should do it later. And all of that is very real. Yet at the same time, for whatever reason, and I would argue everything that I've done up to this point, facing my fears and stepping into discomfort to keep my word, that courageous faith in the outcome would be better than it was before because I am good enough, I am ready, has brought me to hitting record and bringing you another episode of the Culture Matters podcast with the CEO manual. We're talking about the CEO manual today, and today is the introduction of the reasons portion of the CEO manual. If you don't know what the CEO manual is, type in the Culture Matters podcast, the CEO manual, and you're going to see pop up a couple episodes and the that go into what it is, why it is, how it exists, and there's a handful of them on the Culture Matters podcast. But today we're talking about one of the three R's that comprise the chief executive officer as a distinction between the founder. And they are, although often not every CEO is a founder, but every founder is a CEO. We're exploring what that means in this series of videos and through the CEO manual, which I have right here, 120 plus pages of uh, learnings and questions, and which leads to awareness and strategy and clarity and execution. I'm going through it, and today I'm introducing you to one of the three R's, which is we have relationships, resources, and reasons. And today is an introduction on reasons and how that fits in to relationships and resources. But it's just an introduction. So over the coming months, we're going to go going through the various categories that reasons is broken down into, and the subcategories and the questions that comprise this idea of reasons. And I tell you, without a reason, I wouldn't have hit record. Without a reason more compelling than the apprehensions as a consequence of brushing up against my potential self, coming into this with my current self, without a reason greater than, more powerful than, more energy than the doubt, the fear, the shame, the pride, the rationalization, I wouldn't have hit record. I would have just said, I'll do this later. And later may not have ever come. Ben Franklin said, procrastination, the art of living in yesterday, avoiding today, and destroying tomorrow. Now, throughout the CEO manual, we'll break down the reasons into 5 categories, which ties into the culture puzzle, which is something that I have been facilitating, creating, and implementing for almost 10 years, but really the last 5, 6, as a process, as a product, as a service to individuals in power. The shadow phase, the observation phase, the writing phase, and the creation phase, and the delivery phase, and the implementing phase, the culture puzzle, an actual book that I have written on people in power that breaks down the stories of the organization, the language, the symbolism, the mediums or rituals, environments, and the hero that influences the hero in a way that's constructive and upbuilding. The reasons portion of the 3 R's of the CEO, right? The distinction between founder, CEO, which are different people, yet they are the same person. We're going to talk about that oftentimes. The reasons portion is the driving force. It's why the organization exists, what's unspoken and what is spoken, and then what is unspoken that needs to be spoken, and what's spoken that can be cast away. The reasons portion is the enthusiasm and the spirit that drives the organization that all these investment firms are capitalizing on. They're capitalizing on people's decisions to not do other things and to do what it is that's before them as it relates to work, as it relates to thought, as it relates to speech, as it relates to executing on tasks, as it relates to spending their time and space by, with, and through an organization to create a tremendous amount of energy to flow through it. And then that eventually that revenue based on how it's filtered through an organization leads to profit, which leads to earnings and potential multiples and sales for the money people. Everything hinges on reasons. If you haven't figured out how important it is by now, re-listen to this. I'm going through the CEO manual myself. I'm going to share my note because I'm not going to sell, proselytize, facilitate the CEO manual with you and others if I'm not eating my own cooking. I'm actually, oh shit. There you go. My computer just fell. Let's not edit that out. There, that was easy. That's funny. I'm moving around too much. I'm banging into things and I'm causing chaos. That's exciting. Here we go. I'm going through the, I move my arms again. I'm going through the CEO manual myself because I am not a CEO. Where are my executives? Oh, yes, okay, customers may be executives, but that just means I'm responsible for one vertical as a leader, which is to bring my intellectual property and sacrifice my space time at the behest of someone else's culture. And I might be valuable there and doing my duty there on a spectrum. That doesn't make me a chief if I'm not surrounded yet by executives. So from a very real sense, I am attempting to mature into a chief myself as an advisor or servant to those in those positions of founding executive leadership. That would be the founders' operating principles of businesses, and at this juncture, private companies, 500 million and down, or 50 million and up, and so generally, and so, but not limited to, I should say. On June 22nd, I started the CEO manual myself, and I am on page 47. And I write down when I start working on it, what time it is, and how long I start working on it. And all of that manifested because I was doing the reps myself. I hadn't preordained, thought that through before. It happened as a consequence of paying attention, of working in this manual, of putting time into this, of a product of my own creation. And now it's creating myself. It reminds me of Churchill. We build our houses and then they build us, something like that. I'm paraphrasing. Now here's a zinger. I should share this. Is it vulnerability if I believe it's vulnerability? Probably not. But here we go. On October 21st, 2024 at 8:05 a.m. Oh, no, I'm sorry. On October 22nd at 10:04 a.m., I was on page 47. I finished at 10:10 a.m. at 10/22/2024. I have not worked on this since, hey, someone just walked by. I have not worked on this. It is November 13th in that many days. I am now embarrassed. I feel shame. I am at a deep degree a hypocrite for not having, because if I look at how committed I was prior to this, yes, I may have missed a few days here and there. I may have missed a few days, it says I worked on this. Remember, we're in the CEO manual at 9:30, 10:09, 10:11, 10:12, 10:15, 10:15, 10:18, 10:21, and then boom, it's been over 2 weeks and I have not. Now, so we're talking about reasons. I'm going through the CEO manual. as it relates to reasons, the purpose. And I'm going to read my purpose because I answered reasons under, so you could learn from my example. The purpose of me going through the CEO manual is multifaceted. One is to learn, it's to think, it's to become more clear, it's to help me increase my ability to take action, which one of the interesting things about it has, which is part of the reason, no, not all, but part of the reason I haven't gone into it. It's funny. It's worked, so I've stopped. And it's one interesting paradox of life. Success undermines itself, right? The behaviors that got us successful, we stop doing without awareness that undermine our future success. Where's the reasons? Here it is. So the reason that the reason, here's my answer for reasons. The reason Culture Matters exists is to uncover genius, talent, skill, and potential. As a firm, we come along side by side founders to empower, educate, enable them to mature into chief executive officers. Our purpose is to create more value for shareholders by improving efficiency and effectiveness of management, as well as improving products and services. We do this through advisory, products and services. And yeah, that's what I wrote. I can't read my handwriting. Production. Oh, it goes more into details of things. So the reason Culture Matters is to uncover genius, just like I say on the Culture Matters podcast. The purpose of the podcast is to uncover the genius of our guests, talent, skill, potential. The CEO manual I want to provide to the world as a compilation of my up to this point, my career as a culture advisor and our tenure as a professional firm working in the trenches every day, all over the country in businesses, figuring out business and not just in the classroom. We brought the books to the books to the businesses. It's integration. And so this is a compilation of that. And so how am I going to share it at the highest level if I'm not going through it myself? Although I wrote it and came up with the questions, at some level, they're not even my questions. They're a consequence of all this experience, wisdom, and unbelievable people that I've learned from and with and through. And it's not just mine, it's ours. So I'm going through it. Now, I have not gone through it since the 22nd of October. And I hope that demonstrates just how natural and easy it is for us to betray ourselves. For us to betray ourselves. And that's why I want you to see that. And there's all sorts of reasons that I could give of why I have that very well easily can manifest into excuses for me to not accept and to accept and then try to figure out, well, how, if I failed at something I have put my word on to myself and others, and I'm saying, and I believe it's important to me, I must figure out, well, why haven't I gone into it, and how can I make it happen? You want to get something done, you give it to the busiest person. So I am going to figure that out after this self-awareness from actually looking and see what you're observing me do right now is exactly the fruit that comes from going through something like the CEO manual. Self-awareness, maturity, ability to respond, clear thinking, strategy, and then execution. I get things done. I'm proud of that. I wasn't always, and I didn't always get things done. And it's not even absolute. It's like I get things done. There's plenty of things that I don't get done. And so, and oftentimes, some of the things that must get done for me to become the best version of myself are not getting done because they're in the way of me becoming the best version of myself, and I'm sabotaging myself. So I hope that helps you. So the reasons portion of the CEO manual, we're going to be diving into the belief structure of your company, the purpose of your company, the goal of your company, the sub goals and objectives and things, and how to really understand all of that, the story and drama of the company, how to share that with others, how to exemplify it through language and in the written word and the spoken word and the symbolically. We're going to be going through all that the coming months. In closing, because I want to stop recording this, I'm going to read to you part of my purpose in this world. It's exemplified through a story that I found on page 222 in 12 Rules for Life. It's an interesting coincidence that I was reading this morning, and I thought, I'll read this. The ancient Egyptians had already figured this out thousands of years ago, although their knowledge remained embodied in dramatic form. They worshipped Osiris, mythical founder of the state and the god of tradition. Osiris, however, was vulnerable to overthrow and banishment to the underworld by Set, his evil, scheming brother. The Egyptians represented in story the fact that social organizations ossify with time and tend towards willful blindness. Osiris would not see his brother's true character, even though he could have. Set waits and at an opportune moment attacks. He attacks Osiris into pieces. Oh, he hacks Osiris into pieces and scatters the divine remains through the kingdom. He sends his brother's spirit to the underworld. He makes it very difficult for Osiris to pull himself back together. Fortunately, the great king did not have to deal with Set on his own. The Egyptians also worshipped Horus, the son of Osiris. Horus took the twin forms of a falcon, the most visually acute of all creatures, and the still famous hieroglyphic single Egyptian eye. Osiris is tradition, aged and willfully blind. Horus, his son, could and would, by contrast, see. Horus was the god of attention. That is not the same as rationality. Because he paid attention, Horus could perceive and triumph against the evils of Set, his uncle, albeit at a great cost. When Horus confronts Set, they have a terrible battle. Before Set's defeat and banishment from the kingdom, he tears out one of his nephew's eyes. But the eventually victorious Horus takes back the eye. When he does something truly unexpected. He journeys voluntarily to the underworld and gives the eye to his father. What does this mean? First, that the encounter with malevolence and evil is of sufficient terror to damage even the vision of a god. Second, that the attentive son can restore the vision of his father. Culture is always in a near-dead state, even though it was established by the spirit of great people in the past. But the present is not the past. The wisdom of the past thus deteriorates or becomes outdated in proportion to the genuine difference between the conditions of the present and the past. That is a mere consequence of the passage of time and the change that passage inevitably brings. But it is also the case that culture and its wisdom is additionally vulnerable to corruption, to voluntary, willful blindness, and Mephistophelian intrigue. Thus, the inevitable functional decline of the institutions granted to us by our ancestors is sped along by our misbehavior, our missing of the mark in the present. I am reading this to you to reveal a bit more to you. The role that I take within organizations is of Horus helping Osiris as the culture becomes disengaged. Those that start an organization find themselves willfully blind or unable to see what's right in front of them as a consequence of success, and the times get tough. We come alongside and we help win the battle, and we bring the eye the site back. We thrive in hell, and we know how to get there and how to leave. And it is my calling, not not to help those that are already on the top of the mountain, but to help those that were and are now stuck in a they're they've tripped and fallen in a cave, and somebody's got to climb in there and get them out. Thank you for listening to the Culture Matters podcast. You can DM me, Jay Doran _ the Culture Man on Instagram, about the CEO manual, and I will see you next time.